Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint Pendulum Friday. Thank you very, very much for being here. So a couple of quick notes. Um, it's Thursday afternoon, which is when I always record Pendulum Fridays. And just a little bit ago, I finished doing a joint video with Kathy Beal of Professional Aquarian. For those of you who are regular viewers of this channel, you know she's like my go-to astrologer because she makes it all make sense. Um, when you see her video on Monday, because that's when it's going to be released, she spoke a lot about things that are going to be happening on the 14th and 15th, so this weekend. So that's going to be super interesting to sort of see what things look like by Monday and Tuesday. Um, so I encourage you to check that video on Monday. Also, in that video, I announced that I was taking the rest of that week off. So the video is going to be released on Monday, and then I will return to you a week later on the 23rd. Okay? I just need some rest. Also, I have had a ridiculously busy day today. I don't know who plans these things, man, but I've been from one end of the, to the other. So I'm a little tired. So if I like screw stuff up, just you don't need to correct me. Just trust me. I know I probably screwed it up. Um, that's what happens when you deal with a tired channel. So let's get going. All right. First thing I want to say is there's just a little note here that I want to share. Quite a few of the comments have brought up 5 calls as a great resource for contacting representatives, for providing scripts, and contact info for your individual location. For those who want to get active in this way, some of us aren't able to demonstrate publicly, so this could be helpful. So thank you for that little add-on. It's Beth that she put this all together. So thank you very, very much for that. And final thing is last week, I think Joyce made a comment saying that her sister was doing much, much better. So that's awesome. All righty, here we go. For anybody who's new here, I'm just going to show you the motions. Maybe I'll just move that out of the way. Okay, here we go. When the pendulum goes back and forth, it's ready to talk and I am protected. For those of you who might be curious exactly who I'm talking to when I'm using the pendulum, I'm talking to, unless it's something for my physical body or right, where I would then be talking to my higher self, I'm actually talking to the very same energies that I channel with. Okay, so, which is how come when I screw up a name or I get something backwards, I it's not honestly, it's not that big a deal because they understand what I'm trying to say at the best of times. Okay, so side to side is it's ready to talk. Show me yes. It goes back and forth, and show me no. And it goes round and round, and you will notice there is some momentum in my hand. Um, I don't know anybody who can hold a pendulum and keep their hands straight. The energy of the pendulum causes that slight vibration or movement in the hand. Here we go. Russia is building a series of military bases along their border with Finland. Will Russia invade Finland? Yes or no? No. Um, in the video that is going to be released on Monday, there was a bit of a conversation about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and etc. And borders and the astrological impact and influences of it. So check it out. Here we see Polyev winning his seat in Edmonton. So for those of you who don't know, um, Polyev is the um, leader of the Conservative Party who just lost his election bid to Mark Carney in our federal election we just had. So he lost his seat too, which was, I think, somewhere in Quebec. And so one of the politicians here in Alberta has basically said, I'll step down, you can step into my seat, but there still has to be like an election for that. So, but the thing is that the guy that stepped down here in Edmonton, he comes from a redder than red district. So theoretically, this guy should just be able to walk in and take the seat. Let's see. Is Polyev going to win his seat in the Alberta by-election? Yeah, he is. Polls are showing that Ken Paxton, he's in Texas somewhere, could beat John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race. Ken Paxton is a corrupt attorney general in Texas. Cornyn is a longstanding GOP Texas senator. There is also a third candidate. All three are Republican, of course. Will Ken Paxton win? Okay, right now it's a yes. There is a Democrat whose name I'm going to screw up. J.D. Solston, I think, maybe, I apologize, is running against Joni Ernst in the Iowa Senate race. Will this JD win? And of course, we all know Joni Ernst is the one who, when asked if she understood how many people were going to die if with the Medicare, Medicaid cuts, literally said, well, we're all going to die sometimes. So let's hope she loses her seat. Here we go. Is this JD guy going to win? Bro. Wow. And look at how strong a yes that is. So again, as of right now, the energies indicate that it looks really good for him. Will there be an effective response to the criminal attack on the public in LA? Okay, at this point, no. Um, will the National Guard or the military start to arrest ICE? No. Now, my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that the National Guard has been called in, are protecting government buildings. They are not necessarily interacting with the people who are protesting or the, ICE people. Um, Now, the fact that they're there in the first place it's illegal because Gavin Newsom doesn't want them there, and he's the one who's supposed to call them in. So we'll see how that unfolds. In fact, let's just ask. So I understand that Newsom is suing whoever he needs to sue, saying you have no right bringing in the National Guard or the military, whoever he brought in. Is Newsom going to win that lawsuit? Is it going to be settled in favor of him? Okay, initially, yes. And I'm saying that because um, my next question will explain. Is it immediately going to be appealed and work its way up all the way to the Supreme Court? Yes. Okay, in one of my readings, there was a Queen of Swords card that came up, and could that be referring to Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff? I wish I knew actually what it was in reference to. Let's just ask. Was the Queen of Swords that represented, what showed up in a reading, was that representing Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles? So yes. Does Governor Gavin Newsom need to be concerned about his safety? Okay. What we're getting here is a small yes, but I am hearing that he is well protected. The people who protect him are sort of like on high alert. Okay. Um, it's hard to believe that there is any future for the GOP politicians if they leave office. Who will trust them? Who will the party burn to the or will the party burn to the ground? Okay, so this is the thing that you got to realize is that Republicans sort of take care of their own. And the thing is even if a Republican is doing something that we find horrendous and abhorrent and illegal and immoral, if they're following what the party wants, they end up in really good positions outside of their political career, whether it is as lobbyists or some sort of, I don't know, like inside position, think tanks, that kind of thing. So the question is, like, who would believe them? Well, people of their party and people who think the same way they do. So then we'll answer this question, which is, will the party burn to the ground? For those of you wondering, I put out a video on Wednesday talking about the future of the GOP. That's where this question is coming from. Will the party burn to the ground? Okay, no. Let's ask it this way. Will the party find itself needing to reconfigure itself to get back the followers it's losing? Yeah. Okay, so they're going to have to. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a split between um, Trumpers and Republicans. And even though all the Republicans right now are Trumpers, there are still, a lot of them are Trumpers publicly, but not privately. So there's that. Were the provocateurs that caused the violence in Los Angeles demonstrations, were they sent by 45? That's a no, but that's a really specific question. Let's ask this. Have they been sent by somebody high up within the Republican Party? Mhm. Yeah, they have. So, that kind of makes sense, right? Because what's that expression? Plausible deniability, right? Those kinds of orders or directions, they can't come straight from Trump. Um, how likely is it that we'll have a free and fair midterms? Well, um, Trump and Project 45 are suppressing women and minority voters, and they seem increasingly confident that they will win. Will midterm elections actually take place? Yes. The rest of that question was, or will they be negated by something? No. You know, there's going to be a lot of interesting information that's going to come out with regards to um, some of the shenanigans, if you will, that were going on during that last election. And I think that may have a bit of a sobering impact or effect on a lot of flat out um, manipulation. I heard that 45's real estate guy, Witkoff, who's now some political e-boy in his regime, who's met with he for the felon, then has met with these other countries to basically ask who would give him the plane or other gifts. True or false? Yes or no? Yes. And I mean, it was made really, really clear that that plane that was, this great big gift from Trump or to Trump, um, they dumped this plane on him because he asked for it. And I gather they couldn't sell it to save their soul. So, and that's where there's a problem, or there was one, because they wanted Trump to basically fess up and say, I asked for it. And of course, he doesn't want to do that because he wants the world to believe that he's just such an amazing man that people are just, you know, throwing $1 million gifts at his feet. Okay, potential dangers for 45's health. Um, does this mean that Trump could be physically harmed, have a health event by some act of heightened danger? Yes. Now, could his health also be impacted negatively by some sort of physical response in the body? So I'm like thinking stroke, heart attack, like that. Okay, so yes. It just sounds, and I think even Kathy had something to say about this. It just sounds like June is going to be, and there are certain periods where it is going to be particularly hazardous, I guess, for Trump's health. And I don't remember what planets she said were doing what, but they were the same planets that were in play during that rally he had, without the roof and like that. Um, okay, well, will 45 use force to shut up EM? Okay, that's a no. Don't forget, I just, talked about this. Um, Plausible deniability. It's kinds of they're not going to come straight from whose mouth. Now, before I read the rest of this, apparently, I guess in the last 24 hours or so, EM has backed up and said basically that things kind of got out of hand, and he probably shouldn't have said what he said. He didn't. I don't believe say it was wrong, just that he shouldn't have said it. Um, because you know we know Trump is as vengeful as they get, and he's threatening to pull all of those government contracts. And so I don't know that he necessarily needs to use force as much as a threat of significant financial, hardship or loss. Now, apparently, they're saying Lincoln Project reported last night that key people in the Trump world are saying that conversations are happening in the White House about the possibility of the U.S. arresting and indefinitely detaining Musk as a security risk, an illegal alien, and confiscating or at least freezing his assets. Okay. Um, I don't question that the Lincoln Project is saying this. So my question is going to be, will this happen? Is this likely to happen? That's a no. Will Pam Bondi be punished in some way for the harsh actions she is taking? Any sort of punishment? Okay, so yes. And then the follow-up question is, will she lose her law license? It's a yes. It's a small one, but it's a yes. When Condon flees the U.S. to avoid being charged for his many crimes, will he take all of his kids with him? Or will some stay in the US? Okay, so Trump's adult children, are they going to kind of flee? Um, Good if dad does. Okay, so initially, got to say it looks like no. I assume Melania is going her own way and taking Barron with her. Is that an accurate assessment? Yep. The thing is that Barron is, I mean, he's of age now, is he not? He's got to be over 18. Um, so yes, I'm sure mom has a lot of sway, but he's also probably old enough to make his own decisions and choices. Um, do you see him dropping all the information that he has about Trump and Epstein if he is granted immunity? No. Does he really have pictures showing Trump with half naked girls around him? So this is interesting because I actually saw a picture when I was scrolling um, of Trump, and Epstein was behind him, and there was a young girl sitting beside him, and she was like wearing sort of like a bikini. Um, and he had his hand on her thigh. I'm sure she loved that. And there was another girl also in the picture. The problem is with this AI stuff, it's really difficult to know sometimes if what you're looking at has been created versus it is a actual, you know, picture of what was going on. Um, so I've seen a picture like that. Let's broaden this out and just say, are there pictures like that? Yes. Why do a number of spiritual channels on YouTube keep insisting that Trump is a service to others individual at this time in history? Based on what? Some perverted interpretation of service to others. Okay, I got to tell you, that's actually not a yes no question. But, as I've said, um, it's kind of interesting listening to Trumpers talk because there really is a feeling that he's somehow special and he was sent. Um, a- as I've recently said to somebody, with all of the billions of people on the planet, you got to think that God could have come up with something better than a 70 whatever year old degenerate. Um, but there are a lot of people who feel that what he is doing is sort of part of his soul contract, that it's part of kind of what he came here to do, basically to, tear stuff down so that it could be rebuilt and reconfigured. And I'm not in a position to say that's wrong or yes or no to that, but this is what I will tell you. We all have a soul print or contract. Um, but that doesn't mean that all the choices we make are in alignment with that soul print. Because at the bottom of it all, we all have free will, we all have free choices, and our choices impact what happens next. I personally am of the opinion, based on his energy and following this guy for God knows how many years now, um, the only in service he is in is for himself. And I just don't happen to think that, and this is the thing, right? I mean, it's not that there isn't stuff that needs to be sort of torn down and rebuilt. I'm not arguing that. But what I'm saying is there is a violence, a viciousness, and a cruelty to the way it's being done that has nothing to do with spiritualist principles or ideas. And that's the end of my lecture on that. Okay, well, this is kind of interesting. Does Trump wear a Foley catheter? I have no idea what that is, except it's some kind of catheter, to collect his urine in a 0.5 liter bag attaches to his lower leg. What's going on with the help of the president that he has to travel with a 2 liter bag of urine attached to his leg because he can't hold his fluids? That isn't a yes or no question. Let me ask this. You really have to give me yes or no's, because otherwise I'm sort of recreating the question, and I'm hoping that I'm recreating it in a way so that it's answering kind of what you were asking, kind of without answering it, without asking it. So let's just, real simple. Does Trump, for health reasons, have a catheter? It's a yes. It's a very small yes. So I'm not sure what that means. Whether it is in place all the time or it is in place when there's going to be a long period of time, I don't know. Are Vance and Thiel waiting for Trump to take control of the country by martial law before removing him? No. The follow up was, in that way they would have control of the country. Um, so let me just ask this. Does Vance feel or think that he is in a position to remove Trump so he can ascend to the presidency? Right now, that's a no. And I have to tell you, energetically, as soon as I stepped into that energy, what I got was that people as much as they are pushing back, they are becoming, they sort of have a front row seat or a bird's eye view of just how vengeful this man is and just how vicious and angry he can get. And so I think a lot of people are watching their step. I'm going to say it that way. Now, the other thing is, let's say, for example, whatever that amendment is where they can get him out of office because he's no longer fit. If I am not mistaken, there is like okay, so he gets removed from office and Vance steps in. But there is a period of time, like 30 days or something, where the president who has been removed can basically um, appeal it, right? Can basically present evidence or whatever it takes to um, convince people that that decision was wrong. So it's not like once he gets removed from office, he doesn't have a route to get back in if he is removed by that amendment. So it's really important to realize that if that is some sort of a plan that's going on, it's not going to be really obvious, certainly initially, because people will have to continue to watch their P's and Q's because there is a method by which he can return to office. So you know, let's try to keep the Constitution and the rules in mind. Not that I know about your Constitution, but from what I figured out. Okay, we already answered that one about the provocateurs in LA. And we've also asked that one. Let me just double check the answer on that one. The question is about sort of free and fair elections, midterms. Will the United States have free and fair midterm elections in 2026? That's a yes. Hey, I just tell you the yeses and the nos. All right. Thank you so, so much for being here. Um, as I said, I encourage all of you to watch the video that will be released on Monday morning. Um, and I did mention this in the other video, but may as well not let the whole weekend go by. For those of you who watch Professional Aquarian, there is a video that was actually released on Thursday called Back to the Future. And she talked about it a little bit, but what it is, it's sort of what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about health issues circling around. Um, so that there's a conversation on this video about what it is that's circling around and coming back again and what people should be watching for or mindful of. So I encourage you to go check out that video if you have the time. Alrighty, thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you for putting up with me. um, I'm going to go do some self-care and take it easy for a little while. And I will be really excited to come back and see you again on the 23rd. Um, don't forget your weekly Pick Your Crystal reading is up on Saturday. It'll be up on next Saturday. Those ones, just go ahead, irregardless. Regardless. Oh my God. You know what? That's going to be like, I don't know, on my headstone or something. This woman just could not stop saying the word irregardless. Have a good weekend. Take good care of yourself. Do something nice for yourself and someone else. Take good care because things are going to get a little crazy from what I can figure out. Until I see you again. Bye.